how do you prepare yourself to be punched in the face?
That's different.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not screaming at children like a lunatic.
I just want to make sure.
But then they were like, yo, all you got to do is take the dude down and ground and pound him.
Oh, okay.
Simple. Yeah.
Now I feel bad. Now I feel really bad.
Yeah, you should. Well, you should.
Cut to it. Cut to it. Let's get down to it. Cut to it. Cut to it. Cut to it. Let's get down to it.
Hey, what's going on, Will? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, champ?
Hey,
yo, this is
all
a
right.
trip. I can't believe I'm on with you right now. I'm gonna try not to fanboy out too much, man.
Well, we gonna have some opportunities where we can talk. We could talk ball, you name it.
Yeah.
But man, obviously, Steve Smith Sr. here. Got my co-host, New England Patriots fan, if you couldn't tell, Coley Mick. He's super duper New England Patriots through and through, and Boston. He reps his city, just like I rep LA. So I can't get on him too much. But man, welcome to the Cut to It podcast. How are you doing?
Man, I'm blessed, man. I'm genuinely deeply blessed, man. I'm doing really well, man. Like life has been good to me and the family. You know what I mean?
Awesome. All right. Well, we're gonna get into it and see it. So we do the first part is called Get Iced Up, man. So it's just random questions. Coley just got the questions this morning. I try to keep them hidden with the Get Iced Up, so it's a natural response, and it gives you familiar. So, is deep dish pizza really pizza?
It's overrated.
Ooh, do tell. How do you mean?
So what happens is not many people taste like thin crust, Chicago style thin crust pizza, right? You don't hear about it. Like the deep dish is more like touristy type of deal, right? Like you can only eat like one or two slices of the damn thing. It's a pie.
Speak for yourself.
It's like a thick. Oh, all right, look, man. In my line of work, I'm not able to eat the way I used to be able to eat. But if it's me, I'm all about Chicago style thin crust pizza, man. Before I go deep dish.
Okay. All right. I don't like deep dish pizza anyway. I like Sicilian pizza, which some people will say, "Oh, it's the same." It's not the same. It's just not. I think the deep dish is like it's grainy, crusty. Like it's just
the pie crust. It's like an actual. It's like cheesecake.
Like that Sicilian crust is a little more crispy, right? They get it like real dark, right?
I think it tastes better as well. It just tastes better. So that's what I like. Like deep dish and Detroit style, they're kind of very similar.
Yeah.
And so let's see. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
So what's a pet peeve that you have?
Oh man, a pet peeve. How you load the dishwasher.
Ooh.
Okay.
The dishwasher, man. Like
talk to me about that.
It's such a. You want to know what the biggest argument is between me and my wife when she comes home?
I mean, not really.
When she does anything in the kitchen, our biggest argument is her loading the dishwasher.
Why?
They set that thing up so you can get the most amount of dishes that you can get into it in an organized manner, right? Yeah. I don't like when my wife she's over here frantic, can't figure out how to load the dishwasher. Well, it's because you got a pot up where you should have glasses. Now you don't have no room for the glasses. I'm a big fan of Tetris, as you can see it. So that's my biggest pet peeve. If you go do the dishes, do them right, get everything in the dishwasher. Don't get all crazy, have a bunch of stuff left over because you couldn't figure out how to get it in there.
All right. Coley, what about you?
That's a really good one. I don't know that I have a better one than that because that one bothers me as well. I'd say people at the grocery store in front of you, now that there aren't cashiers anymore, but the people who don't know how to use the self-checkout and they make your trip go like 20 more minutes longer than it needs to be. That really bothers me.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I can agree with that, but I am also one of those guys, if I'm with my kids, like little Deuce, we do give him the opportunity to like be cashier. So he wants to scan.
That's different.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not screaming at children like a lunatic.
I just want to make sure. Right. So this is mine. It's business wise. oh yeah, I was just about to email you, or I was just about to email you, or I was just about to call you. When you send an email to someone like, hey, what about this? Oh yeah, I was just about to email you. No, you weren't. If you were going to, you would have.
So lying's your pet peeve?
No, I don't like to use the word lying. I think lying is harsh.
Procrastinating.
I'm a procrastinator, so I don't find a problem with procrastinating. It's just like if, hypothetically, me and you had a Venmo exchange. Like, hey, no, hypothetically, you gave me some boxing. I said, hey, what are some good pair of boxing gloves to get? You're like, you know what? You can't get these on the open market. Here, I got a pair. I'll shoot them to you. You just shoot me the money back. And I say, how much is it? And it's like, oh, $70 or $120, whatever the amount is. And then a little bit of time goes on. You receive the item. And then you're like, yo, Steve, you get those gloves? Oh, yeah, bro, I got them. I was just about to. And it was like, were you really? Were you really about to send me the money? No, you weren't. You just got busted. So that was your go-to on how you're doing it. So that's my pet peeve is when someone there's an engaging part, and then there's oh yeah. I was just about to hit you up. That just irritates me.
That's the one. That's the one right there.
Yeah.
Dishwasher, man. Dishwasher every time.
Well, that's the funny part. I think my wife thinks that about me, because I will just look. Now, I'll put it on the bottom load, but I am learning the bigger items. You got to kind of put it on the side so it doesn't mess up the I don't even know what that's called. What is it?
Whirly bird, yeah.
The spinner,
helicopter.
The spinner. Yes, yeah. So I'm learning that. And then like the knives, you got to put over to the side, the butter knife. So I am learning. So I would
Where
say
were you putting the knives before? You were just tossing them in there?
No, if you put the knives in the middle of where the silverware goes, sometimes they can still clip.
Gotcha.
So that just
gotcha.
You gotta lay them flat. Like my dishwasher has got the drawer.
So but see, we put the sharp knives up there.
Oh, okay, yep. I got
the sharp knives and the spatula and all that stuff and the tongs. Some of that stuff, right?
But that whole rack does like everything. I'm just letting you know, like butter knives, forks, sharp knives, everything go up there. I don't know. Just an FYI.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah. Anything? All right, last one. After now you made me feel bad. No, I'll just play. I'm messing with you. You a coffee or tea guy?
I'm an energy drink guy.
Ooh.
Like the Celsius. I guess is that an energy drink? Like it's more like seltzer water. Yeah. I don't drink like Monster or Red Bull, nothing like that. But I like those Celsius things.
Okay.
The new brand that just came out. But other than that, man, I'm running on like 3 kids and a wife energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just full go with that.
Okay. How many kids do you have?
I got 3. I got a
boy,
6-year-old.
girl?
I got 2 girls, 1 boy.
Ooh, God bless you, brother.
Yeah.
2 girls,
man.
Huh?
Yeah, my wife trying to get me to have another one.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I got 4.
Yeah.
I love my kids.
Yeah.
But I also think, when you can't play man-to-man coverage, people that play zone like me, hey man, just come on, join the crew. It can't get no worse. If you got 3, throw 4. It don't matter.
I'm all pressed up over here. Like it's 3-on-1. And my son don't even have my back. He ain't even got my back. He ain't even on my team, bro. It's more like I thought when we had the boy, I was like, oh, I got some help. Like I'm gonna be set. Like I'm good. He's like, no, I'm with them. Like I'm over
team
here.
mom.
Right. It's mom all day. She hit the door. He's like, oh, where dad?
I know. Is that not the worst? Is
crazy,
that not
crazy.
the worst feeling? Is when like mom leaves and they cry, you're like, man, who am I? Like,
exactly.
Like, I still count.
Yeah, like mom's sleeping. Oh, no. Like,
right. It's like, we were just in the backyard playing catch and having a good time, and now all of a sudden I'm garbage. Like
now
I'm non-existent. Right.
Yeah. It's like it's like the picture on Forrest Gump, right? Can't sit here. This thing's taken. All right, man. Let's get into your life. Where are you from and the place you call your hometown?
I'm originally from Chicago, but I don't call it my hometown, because I moved out of there when I was like 8 years old.
Okay.
You know, like, so it's more like, it was just a fragment of life, right? Like, things were just based off of family history. Things were so fragmented, everybody shuffling, moving around. So I can't really say that that was my home. So if I was to have to say, I think Gurney, Illinois was the place where I really settled down and, you know, of course, started learning life, like my high school years, middle school years, things like that. So that's where I'm really from. But my family is originally from Chicago. So that was kind of where we was at.
And your favorite team growing up?
Chicago Bears, man, just automatic. Like, I grew up with that. That was in our household. It was just, it's almost just a second nature type of deal, man. My pops was a big Walter Payton fan and everything under the sun. And like, that was just automatically it. Like, if you know anything about Chicago, when you come out the womb, you're a Bears fan or a Bulls fan. So that's just how it was.
I mean, you're born in 1986, so that's right around after they won the Super Bowl. So that's really close. They were still prevalent. Walter Payton was still heavily in the community. You had the refrigerator, Richard Dent. You had all these great players.
Yeah.
Right? Jim McMahon, BYU guy. You had all these prevalent players that really oozed the essence of Chicago, the Windy City, tough, rugged, championship team. Then you got Michael Jordan coming on the scene as well. I mean, Chicago, you know, it was Chicago, LA, New York. Those were, you know, Boston. Those were the places and teams that people rooted for. Right? Because everybody else was kind of pushed to the side because they didn't have the championship. They didn't have the consistent flair that, you know, you would say back in the 80s at that time, that the Chicago Bulls, Chicago Bears were really there at that time.
Yeah, no, that's true, man. And they had those, you know, they had, it was the sports teams, it was the city life, but it was also like the dynamic of the characters, like each individual person that represented the Bears, from Walter Payton to Dent to Ditka to whoever you were looking at. That person had a personality that was just above and beyond, right? So you could even like forget about the Chicago Bears and just focus on one person and be like, oh, that person I'm a huge fan of them. And then you start getting to the underneath part and it's like, oh, he plays for the Bears or whatever. Now I'm a Bears fan, you know? So he had that personality, man.
So growing up, you know, in Illinois, in Chicago, near Chicago, you know, how did that shape your view on life? Like, what was your upbringing? How did it impact your life?
Man, it impacted me in a lot of positive ways and in a lot of negative ways, man. Like, we moved back and forth between the West Side and the South Side. And, you know, I had two parents that battle with addiction and just that general lifestyle of gangbanging, violence, hustling, doing all these different things, right? It was kind of my family history. That was kind of like our background. It was like you hit a certain age and this is what you into. Like, this is the life that you start living, right? So for me, when I was younger, I only saw like fragments of all that stuff, right? Like, I saw what it was, but it wasn't ingrained or rooted in me enough where it was like, oh, I'm going to go do that. You know what I mean? I was only 6, 7, 8 years old when I started really putting things together. But by the time things started getting a little hot and a little heated for my family, that's when my father came and got me and my youngest brother and moved us out of Chicago to North Chicago. It's like technically a suburb outside of Chicago, but he came and got us. So I never really got deep into like the dirt, you know, into the real mud, you know what I mean? But I knew how it impacted my family. I could see the scars that it left. So just my parents' attitudes, the way they approach life just kind of built me to who I am today, you know? So a lot of aggression, a lot of straight to the point, a lot of cut right to it. Like, not to get all like, there's no pun in it, but
that's why
straight up, like, that's how it was.
That's why this is the name of it. Cut to it. It's just like, man, get to the chase. Really, just kind of really talking about what, you know, people have experienced. So obviously, at 36 years old, sports play, I believe sports played a big role in your life because you're 36 years old, still doing sports as a profession. It has, that had to start at a young age. And if it did, what sports were you all into when you were a young kid?
Well, when I was younger, I really didn't get into football was always my sport, right?
Okay.
But I didn't get into playing organized football until I was maybe 10 years old, mainly because we just didn't have the money when we were living in Chicago. We didn't have the money and we didn't have the structure. Like my household was chaos. It was chaos. To like the lightest, like the easiest definition of it was chaos. My mom was still very deep into her demons and her addictions and that gang life and all that, like hustle and all that stuff. And so she was still in that. My dad was in rehab in North Chicago, which is where he ended up taking us. He was in rehab trying to put his life back together. So I didn't really have anybody around to be like, oh, we're going to go join the Pee Wee League or something like that. We just didn't have that opportunity to do that. So I didn't start playing sports until I was 10, organized sports until I was 10. When I was 10, I started doing football, then I did wrestling. And that was kind of my two things that I was like, yo, I like these. Those were the things that they said, oh, you could physically go and hurt somebody and nobody's going to scream at you for it. So those are my things that I was going for.
Yeah. Man, if you don't want to get into it, but I can't glance over it. Your mom's dealing with her addiction and not, obviously not sober. And then your dad is in rehab. Man, where did that put you, you and your brothers or you and your family growing up? Because one trying to get a handle of their life and one is struggling to get a handle on life. That had to do some things to you mentally that, even to this day still impacts you, right? Just a little bit, right?
Oh, I mean, not even a little bit. Like I would say massively, it still impacts me, but I think we all go through things in life, right? Where it can go two ways. Either it's going to be something that impacts you through life and continues to impact you in a negative way, or you're able to see it, recognize it for what it is and turn it into a positive. And that thing can continue to impact your life, but you're just using it as a motivation, right? Or some type of thing to keep you on the straight and narrow, keep you on the right angles, right? Yeah. But when I was younger, man, I won't lie, man, it was difficult, man. And that's why when I say fragmented childhood, I mean, like there was times where I'd be in Chicago with my mom for 1 week. And then all of a sudden my dad pop up to come get us because my mom was nowhere to be found, and my dad find out that me and my youngest brother is in the house by ourselves with, no food, no whatever. And one of our neighbors decided to step up and, make a phone call. So it was a lot of that. Like my dad come and get me. We in North Chicago at my grandma's house while he's still in the rehab housing and things like that. And then all of a sudden my mom pop up and, you can see that she's under the influence to just lighter word, So my childhood was that, you know what I mean? And then finally, when it came to the head point where my dad finally was like, yo, I'm gonna get custody of my kids. I thought, oh man, like I'm about to go live with my dad. Like it was about to be gravy, but I was so close to my mom that even though I knew my mom was in prison, she was going to prison at this time. So he had to come get us or we was going to end up in the system, right? So even though I knew where she was and I knew what was going on and I knew she had her demons and I was still hurt, man. I was like, that's my world. You're taking me away from that thing, from my mom, even though my mom was in and out of the picture. So it was hard, man, making that adjustment, living with my dad full time, him trying to figure out how to be a father himself. He didn't have his dad in the picture. And I didn't understand that when I was younger, of course. But and he's trying not to relapse, like when we moved in with my dad, everybody that was in a rehab with him all of a sudden started relapsing back to back. So That put a lot of pressure on my pops. He's like, I got my 2 boys. I'm a brand new dad. I'm trying to do this and stay sober. So it was tough, man. But now when I look back on it as 36 years old, I can see that, man, I don't think I would make it this far in life if it wasn't for the small character things that my parents were able to teach me, how to battle through difficult things that you don't have a lot of control over. So long story short, like it still weighs heavy on me in a positive way, I guess.
Man, that's crazy because, you know, obviously looking at the posters in the back, and you don't see that, right? A lot of times we don't wear a scar. You know, we don't wear our wounds. We don't wear what we experienced at such a young age. Now we act it out and people can pick it up, you know, but they can't necessarily put their finger on it. And man, for you to ever be able to recognize that and see that, man, that's huge because there's a lot of people walking around with scars and wounds and how they were informed of their childhood that they project on other people are completely unaware. And for you to recognize that and be able to work through it and also not fall into the same footsteps, that's huge.
I'll be honest, man. I won't sugarcoat it and make it sound like I saw it, I figured it out, and I got it together, right? Like I've made a ton of mistakes, man. I've like made a lot of stupid like mistakes where it was kind of self-sabotage, you know, like
absolutely
being in a space where I've watched people in my life who were supposed to be those role models self-sabotage. That's what I learned to do, you know, like if anything good came into my life, I felt like, oh, I'm not supposed to have that.
You push it away.
So let's figure out how to break it. You know what I mean? So, and you almost start like creating battles where there's no fight to be had, right? So I went through a lot of that stuff and I tried to figure out how to become a gangbanger. I tried to figure out how to get into drugs and violence. I started seeking that out, even though it wasn't even a part of my life anymore. But it was just, I think certain things just go all the way down to our DNA, I believe, and our genes, like a certain mentality, certain personality. And I had to battle through a lot of that stuff, and not until the last 2 or 3 years I figured out how to actually get a grip on it and get a hold of it and not let it just keep drowning me, you know? So I definitely took a lot to figure it out, but you know, 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, a wife, a house, you're like, oh, bro, you better get it sorted out because you got real responsibility. So it is what it is now.
Man, take us through your high school there. You know, you talk about you were doing football and wrestling. Take us through what you experienced in high school, wrestling and football. Obviously, being a Chicago Bear fan, like you said, you know, were there any inspiration or you inspired to play in the NFL possibly?
It was this dude named Steve Smith, like for real, like straight up that like I was a shorter guy, right? I was real short and I was kind of like thin, but I started watching your highlights and just, I played defense. I played defensive back and I played a little running back, but like just your attitude and your approach to things, you know, like I was just like, oh, that's something that I would want to be like when I grow up, you know, like when like how I approach life. But it was just overall just people like that like had that confidence in themselves that made me want to continue to play football and stuff like that. But man, I wish I could say that I had this like beautiful rosy painting where like we got with my dad and then high school hits and everything kind of smoothed out. But when I got to high school, I ended up getting kicked out of my house from my dad. So I wasn't my freshman year. I was living with a different family. I was living with my boys' family. And throughout my high school years, I lived with that family and I wasn't living with my dad.
Why? What did you do?
Just difficult relationship, man. Like my dad was a Vietnam vet dealing with PTSD, different things like that. And over time, just mental things as far as his mental health started to impact him a great deal. Oh, wow. Now you add that on top of having a kid in high school who's starting to mature and coming to himself and try to figure out how do I do this becoming a man thing, you know? So we started bumping heads a lot. And one minute is just verbal interactions, right? Then all of a sudden it gets a little chest bumps and like shoulder bumps. And then you find yourself one day being told to go wash the dishes and you drop a pan and make a bunch of noise and you get punched across the back of your head by your pops because it triggered his PTSD and a handful of other things we were dealing with, right? So now it turns from yelling, chest bumping to now we fist fighting, right?
Wow.
Like, so we went through that and it was just one of those things where it was like, oh yeah, this probably doesn't work. This is probably not how you should be living as a father and a son, right? And so I removed myself from it. And it was kind of mutual, you know. It was like, yo, if we keep going down this route, somebody's going to do something that they really can't come back from. And I could tell you that I probably would have did something to him that I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now because that's where we were. And so yeah, high school was that. That was like football was my savior almost. Like, and we hear that story a lot, right? With a lot of young athletes. In particular, like in the Black community, young Black athletes, that's usually trying to get away from something with sports. And football was my savior, wrestling was my savior, and just using something to keep me tied to sanity as much as I can, or I could have been. So wrestling was that.
Definitely, sports was mine. Growing up, sports was my little sanctuary. You know, my mom kept me busy in sports as well, so I could really identify, you know, with that. I think also too, a lot of people don't want to admit it, but I know in the Black community, and when I was raised, you either played sports to go to college, and if you were a screw up, you went to the military. Right, that was like literally the only options. And I think as things have improved, I think that's why you see so many athletes go to community college now. Like you don't just have to go to the military to save your life, like community college. So I think that has really changed and been an advantage. But I think a lot of people don't realize in the minority community that it was sports or the military, you know, or the Peace Corps, right? The Peace Corps.
My brother went to the Air Force.
Wow.
That was his move. He went to the Air Force. He was, you know, followed the family traditions of being a knucklehead, getting mixed up in his dumb stuff. Almost died. Had to change his life. He went to the Air Force to go to school, the scholarship school, Air Force, military, all that stuff. So he was like, yo, this is the only option I got. So that's what he did.
Wow. So you sustained an injury in football.
Yeah.
What year? So senior year, junior year?
This was my freshman year of playing at a junior college.
Okay.
Playing at junior college at Harper. What was it? William Rainey Harper College. It's a long ass name, but
where's that at?
It's in Palatine, Illinois.
Okay. All right.
So I was playing there, and I was trying to work on trying to get my grades together, get myself back to being a student athlete, not an athlete student, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to sort that out. And I was hoping to try to get into Michigan State. I had a girlfriend at the time that was going there, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna follow her and figure this out. And I ended up hurting my knee. Nothing serious, nothing that requires surgery or anything like that. But, you know, you go to a junior college where maybe the training staff isn't as educated as like a bigger school would be. So
correct.
I rushed back and wasn't fully healthy and actually injured my knee even more. And I just went down a deep, deep hole of like just depression and was like, man, like this is what I want to do. I want to play ball. I want to compete. And then, you know, being so immature, you know, I thought it was like the end of the world. And I started drinking a bunch and honestly became an alcoholic, which was not easy to do when you come from addicts, when you come from a family of addiction, parents who are addicts. Slipped into alcoholism and just threw it all away. It was like, yo, I'm done with playing football. I'm done with everything, and just sat in my dorm room apartment and just drank all day. So
wow.
That was
just 20 something years old? 22?
Yeah. I was 20. I was probably 20, 22, 23, somewhere around there. Like,
wow.
And I just kind of went down the hill, like was like, at first it was like, oh, I'm just having fun to take the pressure off. And then you wake up one morning, you're just like, I'm gonna have a couple of drinks. They try to get through the day. Then I'm sitting in class, and my cup that you think is water is actually like vodka and something else. So I'm drinking all day during the day. And then I walk into my coach's office and I tell him with liquor on my breath, hungover / drunk, hey, I'm done playing football. I'm done. This is it. I'm over it. Like it ain't gonna work. I'm not going to the league. So I went nuts. I went nuts, bro. I was like, hey, let's just jump off the edge, jump off the cliff. Let's go. So we got nuts.
I love that you were still going to class. That was a curveball I didn't see coming. You were
Yeah,
like, listen,
so
I can still slide this lecture in.
Yeah. Yo, like I was like in my head when I quit, I was like, oh, I'm going to quit so I can focus on being a student, right? Like that was like, yeah, because that was my weakness was the grades. So I was like, yo, I'm going to focus on being a student. But then I didn't realize that I'm an alcoholic, man. Like I'm going through something right now. And, in your brain, you're not clicking like that. Like I was intoxicated.
You're in the forest. You can't see the forest when you're in the forest.
Oh, hell no, bro. No, I was deep in the forest. I was hanging out under the trees, man. I was camped out. So yeah, I just kind of drifted away, man.
So how did you get into MMA? Like, how did you get into fighting?
Yeah, so where I went to school, we had apartments. They didn't have dorms or whatever. So they had this deal with this apartment complex that
that's generally close in proximity to the school.
Yeah. So there was a dude that I went to high school with. He went to the Art Institute, the Chicago Art Institute, that was like 10 minutes down the road from us. And he came over one day and he just to drop in and check on me because he hadn't heard from me. And I'll be honest, man, like if he didn't drop in on me, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now, man. I was
deep into it.
I was killing myself, man. I was slowly like killing myself, like without realizing it, with no intention of doing it.
Right.
But I think just that subconscious thing was like, oh, let's just keep it going. Like you don't feel like you need to be here, so let's just rock. Like let's keep cooking. So he came by to visit me. And he was like, bro, like you got to do something. You got to go talk to your family and do all this. And I was too embarrassed to do that and too ashamed of myself because my parents worked hard to get their lives together to do better for their kids, So I was like, man, I can't go to my parents and be like, hey, I'm an addict now. Like, good job. So he was like, come to this MMA gym with me. You got a wrestling background. You're a high level athlete, man. This is not what you should be doing. Just come in, get yourself in shape. Maybe you go back and try to play football. I go in, I started doing some wrestling, and I started catching my rhythm. I'm like wrestling with D1 level wrestlers and high level MMA fighters, and I'm holding my own. I'm doing really well. And then I started mixing into some of the Muay Thai classes, striking, stuff like that. And one day, a guy that was training there got hurt. He had a fight coming up. He got hurt. And they were like looking for a replacement. And they were like, yo, Will, like, hey man, like, can you jump in and do this for us? Right. Like, so they weren't having me pay the membership fee at the time. So in my head, I'm like, oh, I should do this as like a repayment to them, right? They were like, oh, it's just an amateur fight. It's a one-off.
This is what I love about the fight world. They're like,
right?
it's like we didn't lose like a batting glove. Like we lost a whole human fighter. You step in for him. You haven't been training for this individual at all, but get in there. Yeah.
Right. Like I hadn't been.
You can do it.
Right. Yeah. I had no intent on becoming a fighter. I was just hanging out, getting in shape.
Chilling. I'm just here.
Yeah. I'm just here for a good time. That's all. That's just all I'm here for. But then they were like, yo, all you got to do is take the dude down and ground and pound him. And in my head,
simple,
right? Like I'm a super competitive guy. I'm like, yo, I can out wrestle a lot of people. If that's all I got to do is get them down and keep them down, and let's do it. So I get out there. We were in like a little field house, like maybe like 30 people came out to watch this fight.
Yeah.
So we get in there and I beat him. And
Okay.
it turned out that he was 8-0, and he was supposed to be the next big thing coming out of Chicago as an MMA fighter, like going to Bellator, going to the UFC. Like he was that. And I didn't know that at the time. I just went out there and was like,
You didn't have no pressure. You didn't know anything. You went out there, Kuna Matata. Hey, no worries.
It's like, hey, let's get out here and rock, man. Let's go. And then they were like, yo, we'll toss you a couple $100 if you do it.
Okay.
So it's like, all right, I'm broke right now. I'm semi-drunk all the time. Like,
hey, what could possibly go wrong?
Right. So yeah, man. I went out there, I beat them, and they were like, yo, you got a lot of ability, man. If you do this and do it well, you can make a lot of money. And I was like, all right, let's go. Like, it's either this or I go back to drinking in my dorm room, and somebody's probably coming to my funeral at some point. So like, yo, let's go. Let's keep going.
So I have so many questions based off what you just said, but one of the questions that I've always kind of wanted to ask. You're training MMA, boxing, ground and pound, wrestling, Muay Thai, Bellator, all these different stuff, right? As an MMA fighter, how do you prepare yourself to be punched in the face, right? Like in boxing, I'm doing a little bit of boxing. You have headgear, right? You have gloves. But in MMA, the gloves are a little bit smaller. It's a little bit different. They got tape. But there's no headgear in the MMA.
Right. Yeah.
UFC, whatever division or conference or sport you're in that requires you getting hit in the face. How do you train to get struck in the face?
I mean,
what is do you
is it
is it a tilt the head?
Nah.
Bite the lip,
nah, man.
squinch the eye.
You training not to get hit. That's the thing.
Yeah, but you gonna get smacked.
Not get hit. Right. Yeah, you go get hit, right? But you learn how to roll punches, you know how to step off at angles, things like that.
I don't know how to do that. So break that down.
All right, so I'm breaking it down. Yes. I'll let you know. So when you watch a boxing, have you ever seen any videos of dudes sparring in the gym, right?
Yes, they have headgear.
They got everything on, right?
They got their padded chastity belt on. They got all the stuff that prevents you to fully feel the impact.
Right.
Okay.
So you got all that, right? And but at the same time, you go feel some impact, right? You get hit in the head
a little bit. Yeah.
You know how it is. You got a football helmet on, you got shoulder pads on, whatever. You still hit. You go feel something, right? So you're conditioning your body to be hit. Granted,
but hold on.
Right. Yeah.
But in the football game, we don't take off the shoulder pads. We don't take off the helmet.
Unless you Miles, never mind. I'm not gonna go there.
Antonio Brown, yeah.
You don't take any of that off. In MMA, you take all of that off.
Right. Yeah. So, man, I guess I don't know how to explain how you get ready to get punched in the face. Like you train not to get hit.
Yeah.
And you just know in the back of your head, hey, I'm go get hit. It's go. But you'd be shocked, man. You'd be shocked how little it hurts. It's hard to say it, but because you're moving so fast, you're never straight down the middle, punch me in the face, right? You're always moving.
Well, you try to because here's
you try to, yeah.
Okay, so let's do this then. All right. Got my little information.
Okay. Yeah.
You've had out of 30 fights, you've had 24 wins.
Yep.
Okay. 13 by decision, 6 by knockout, 5 by submission. Walk us through what does it feel like to feel a man submit, and what is a submission? I know what a submission hold is, but take us through your profession of what it feels like to make a man submit. He's over there, you got him in some position, and he said, "Uncle, black uncle, Charlie." He's saying everything. He tapping. He
So-
using whatever body part he can to tap to say, hey, referee, don't give me a pair of Jordans. Get me out of this cage.
Yo, so look, I'm gonna go to this because this is probably, and I'll tell you the story of this, right?
Okay.
You know the celebration you had, you were like, when you see this face,
Yes.
that means I scored.
Absolutely.
And then you said it like, if you see it again, that means I scored again, right? Take that feeling, right, of dominating somebody. You just scored on somebody. That's that feeling. You like, yo, I flat out dominated you in front of all these people, in front of your coaches. Y'all did all that work for 12 or whatever, 12 weeks. You brought your wife and kids, your family at home watching. And I just took from your whole existence.
Wow.
And I did it to a point to where you had no say so. You were just, this is my mindset, right? This is how I approach it. Like if you go into a fight with me, we're not in this together. You're here to hang out with me until I decide that I'm done with you.
Oh, okay.
So when you tap somebody, that's like a different thing, right? Like I could punch you and do all that and stop you with punches, but to physically grab someone, grab an arm, grab a neck and squeeze or grab and like put your hands on them until they decide that, hey, you're physically too much for me. It's something, man. It's something.
The way you're describing it is remarkable. Unfortunately, though, you've had 5 losses.
I knew it. I knew he was going to do it.
Right? 2 by knockout and 3 by submission.
Yes.
Take us through, how does that work from a guy who's had the same feeling of making guys submit, that you aren't doing this together. He's there for your entertainment. How do you now come back from now your opponent has done that to you? Not a lot of times, but no one is undefeated.
Right. Yeah.
No one has never been, no one has ever not dealt with ever being submitted or knocked out, but you've done it, you've experienced it, a few times. So how do you bounce back, and what have you gone through when you have been now on the other side of the submission, right?
Yeah.
You've done it to a number of guys, but there's only been a few guys that have done it to you. So walk us through that.
I think with MMA, you can space out the fights so far in between to where you don't even remember the last one. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get to, like in football, like if you lose that week, you can kind of keep that in your mind because you only got a week to get to the next one, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's kind of still there. But with MMA, I got like 2-3 months to go through this process of like, dang, I just got cooked. Like, damn, like that didn't feel good. That's not how I wanted that to go. But I also have, like, I could take 2 weeks and be like, damn, that was terrible, man. I'm in the dumps. I'm depressed. I'm frustrated with it. But then I have another 2 or 3 months before my next fight to be like, oh, well, like, let's keep going, like move on, But my mindset never changes, man. Like my mindset is always the same. Like I don't care, like, because when I sign a contract, I know in the back of my head that this is 50-50, right? Like that dude is training just like I'm training. Like he's coming in there probably with the same intent that I'm coming in with, to hurt you by any means necessary, get this W, right? So I have to keep that in mind, but I never flinch from my mentality. I don't budge. I don't move my feet, because that same mentality is what gets me through life. So I can't not think this way, because if I stop thinking this way, I could end up back in this dorm room drinking type of mindset easily, because that's just kind of in my person. So yeah, it's not hard to flip the script.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a ring or the octagon and you at any moment, right? And you just kind of think about it and you go, I don't know about this. Or have you ever had self-doubt, or just because you say 50-50.
Yeah.
Bro, when you're saying that, the Super Bowl just ended a couple of weeks ago, and you got the, Philadelphia Eagles versus Kansas City Chiefs. My son just played basketball. He was their school was ranked pretty high. They were ranked before the loss at the championship 25th in high school in the nation off ESPN. But there are times, like as a fan and then as my son's father, I walk into the basketball game, and there are some times where you don't factor in that 50-50. Like you don't factor in that, hey, we could lose. But at some point in the game, some point in the match, you're gonna have that, like, man, I think it's not 50-50 right now, based off that hit or based off that move or based off that mistake. Man, it's 75 him, 25 me that I can lose or win.
I think when I had that mindset when I was with the UFC, my first fight I had like 2 weeks. It was a 2 weeks short notice fight. I took the fight. I won. Split decision. It was a close fight.
Why would you take a 2-week advanced fight? Like, what is the benefit? What's the pro and the con for doing that?
I did it because the money that they wanted to offer me was what I wanted.
Okay.
Right? So coming out of Bellator,
Simple.
I was the world champ. Yeah, the money was the money, right?
The money was right.
We were going back and forth negotiating with the UFC if I was going to sign or not, and they weren't moving on the money that I wanted. So they were kind of in a desperate situation where they needed a good name opponent for this guy, and they called me and I was like, oh well, give me my money and I'll come. So they were like, yo, but you got to do it on 2 weeks notice. And I was like, oh, that's fine. I was still training. I was still in shape. You're not in fight shape, but I felt like, man, my 80% is better than most guys' 100%, or my 60% is better than his 100%.
Okay.
I was like, oh, let's show up and let's cook this thing and let's see what happens, boy. And I was like, yo, let's get it. So I went in and I did it. That's where I wanted to be with the UFC coming out of Bellator. And I was like, why not, man? Because look, they giving me I had a 4-fight contract.
Okay.
So if I lose this one, I still got 3 fights. You owe me 3 more fights. So it was like, I'm kind of in like a win-win situation. Like, so I just did it. It was like,
and so and that obviously worked out for you.
Yeah, it worked out well. That one worked out well, man. And then
so you said that one. So
that
would indicate.
Yeah, man.
That would indicate.
My next 3 went south. Like went south fast.
Why? You fast? What's your version of fast?
It went fast. Like I can't even tell you the years I was in the UFC fast.
Wow. So
that's all it was.
So was that part of the 3 submissions and two knockouts?
No, that was I had one. I got submitted once.
What movie?
No, it was 2 submissions. I lost by a submission twice, and I lost by a TKO. I lost to a rear naked choke.
Okay.
And I lost to what they call a guillotine choke, like a bulldog, like headlock type of deal.
Like kind of like you like a cowboy and you were like one of those bulls or something.
Yeah.
Like on the
100%.
Boy, he had just bow.
But not even like a big bull, like a calf. Like he was in practice. It's like this is just
so you got that one. And then a rear submission is he had his nuts all on your back and choke you out at the same time.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I worked through. I thought I worked through some of the scars, but I appreciate you opening those up again. Thank you, bro. My therapist gonna make a lot of money this week. Thank you. Appreciate it. Damn, that hurt. That was tough, bro.
I'm not trying to be a dirtbag, but I just I was thinking about it.
I like the people who beat him, like sitting next to you, like,
right? Like, yo,
are they in the room with you? Like, what?
Are they texting him right now?
No,
like,
but see,
ask him
about the rear naked. Yeah, ask him about that.
Tell him I put my nuts on his back. Tell him.
Well, you just said rear choke, and I'm like, rear choke.
Yeah.
Oh, that boy.
Look, man. Like he was on my back. He was choking. He was choking my life.
He was like my neck, my spine, my neck.
I was like, yo, look, man. He was on me, and it did.
Oh, literally, he was on me,
right on me. Like hit me with the choke.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is not going the way that I wanted it to.
We did not cover this in practice.
Yeah, yeah, man. Like, but to answer your question, those were the times where I was like, man, like fully in doubt of myself.
Wow.
Like just sold out to being like, oh, I don't have what it takes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So now I feel bad. Now I feel really bad.
Yeah, you should. Like, you should.
What, man, so what's the difference in training just to train, right? And training for a fight? Because I'm assuming they're different.
Yeah. So like if you for me, if I'm not training for a fight, I'm probably in the gym 3 days a week, maybe for like an hour. So one day I might be doing some boxing, striking, but I'm hitting pads, I'm hitting the bag. One day I might be wrestling, but not live hard goes, just drilling, working some technique.
Okay.
And then maybe like a jujitsu day where you just like working submissions, but it's all technique, right? Like it's not going like competition hard, you know?
Okay.
But when I'm in competition, when you in a full camp, for me, there's times where I would train like 2 or 3 times a day.
Really?
And like each session is not we working like for,
okay.
So you get into a different mindset when it's, oh, I'm getting ready to hurt somebody compared to like, oh, I'm just a civilian today. Like, you know what I mean? Just here to just kind of hang out. So it's a different vibe, man. But when I was losing with the UFC, man, like I couldn't figure out how to get back to the competitive side of it. Like I had just got married. My wife was pregnant with our first child. We had just bought a house. And I was in this space where I was like, well, I was giving that everything I had, like 100% was involved in everything that had to do with my wife and going to the doctor, everything with the wedding, everything. Cause that was huge for me. Like that was like,
it was meaningful. It was your life.
Yeah.
And you were building your personal life. And your personal life had been built because of your professional life. Your professional life that was the reward.
Yeah.
Of you getting bopped in the face for you to, but also for you training, being gone for what, weeks at a time and shutting out the world. And, I can't even imagine, like we do training camp 2 a days, but man, to train 3 and 4 times a day, right? Physically, man, that's exhausting mentally and physically.
Man, your body, mentally and physically, you don't have anything left when you get home, right?
Yeah.
So in my mindset, I was like, man, like I've worked so hard to get this, to have this wife, to have this child on the way, to have this house. I can't blow it because I don't have the energy when I get home, right? So I started cutting corners in the practice, in the workouts.
What do you
just
whoa.
mentally and emotionally wasn't there, right?
What do you mean cutting corners?
Cutting corners, like I'm literally in my head, like, bruh, I can't wait till I'm out of here. Like completely disconnected from what was going on in the gym, to the point where like my coaches would be asking me like, bro, you all right? What's wrong? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. You just don't seem like yourself. And then I just started trying to manufacture the idea that like, oh, I'm still locked in killer mindset. I'm ready to go. And I wasn't. I was super in a super soft mindset, super like, I just want to be home with my wife and like helping change diapers and doing all that stuff. I didn't want to blow it because I knew that I didn't come from a family that was married. I come from divorce and addiction and like people self-sabotaging, blowing it all up. And I was like, I got to maintain it. I got to be here all the time to do it. And without thinking about it, you actually blow it all up by accident, trying to do the wrong stuff. Forgot that fighting was the financial thing to keep everything else together. You know what I mean? So kind of just got nuts.
How would you describe what a good UFC or MMA fighter is? Like, what are those characteristics or what categories do you need to have to become a successful MMA or UFC fighter?
Man, if I had to say, it was just the mentality. Like, you have a strong mind, a strong will, right? Because you could go in there and fight another guy that's just as strong as you are, who's just as skilled as you are. But if his mind and his mentality is weak for even a second, I'm superior to you now. It's like anything, right? Like, and I go back to this, like when you face off with a DB and he comes up to press you, now you've been, going through this rhythm the whole game, right? And you can feel him kind of like, oh, he's super confident right now. He got me. He stopped me on this play, maybe jam me up at the line on this one. But then you come up again, maybe you beat him a little bit on one play. You can smell it. You're like, oh, he's mentally about to come up fragile, right? So now he comes up, you can feel it off of him, right? Like he's mentally not there anymore. He's questioning himself. So that's a superior situation now. So with MMA, it's the same thing. Like you physically can be able to beat me, but mentally, if you flinch, then I got you. If you mentally blink before me, you're in trouble. So I would say like the biggest key is being mentally strong, having a high fight IQ and nothing being able to turn you away from that mindset,
What do you think? What skill is more important to have in MMA? Is it boxing? Is it ground and pound? Is it striking?
Wrestling. Can you hear me? I'm good now.
Yeah. Wrestling. Why wrestling?
Because I can neutralize everything else, right? Like if you got good striking and you can outstrike me, or you punch better and kick better than I do, you can't kick and punch me if I take you down to the ground.
Correct.
Right. So, and then like I'm in a dominating position. So I'm on top. Now I can engage you now. Right. Like now I've taken you away from what you're super comfortable with, which is your boxing or your striking. And now you're in my wrestling world, right? Now I can wrestle you, I can grind on you, I can hit you with elbows, I can punch, I can do all these different things. But you can also styles make fights too, right? Like if you have a guy that's a jiu-jitsu guy and I'm a really high level wrestler, I can sometimes beat your wrestle or your jiu-jitsu, right? Because my overall wrestling pressure will become overwhelming. And a lot of the jiu-jitsu positions are very similar to wrestling. So, like if you move your hips this way, me as a wrestler, I know which way to move my hips. I may not know what submission you're going for, but I know that you're going offense or defensive like position, right? So it's a different thing. So wrestling just neutralizes a lot of stuff.
All right. Yeah. I didn't realize that. What do you
I mean, think about it. Like with wide receivers, what would you tell a wide receiver? What's the foundation to being a good wide receiver? It would probably be his footwork, right? No?
Yeah, catching the ball. You'd be amazed how many wide receivers can catch the ball. Yeah, catching the ball. That's essential. Catching the football is essential.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Yeah. Right. You can have all. Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense, right?
You can like, man, that boy fast as lightning. Can't catch a cone.
Yeah, right. He can get off the press.
He get off the press, but he can't do nothing after it.
Word. Right? Okay, bad. I got you. Never mind then. Go to the next.
Well, I just wonder, just because they're so, in every sport, whether it's basketball, golf, tennis, NASCAR, MMA, UFC, there's so many different elements and science, education, and studying that the average individual doesn't know if you don't watch it. Like if I wouldn't say I'm a fan of MMA and UFC, because being a fan means that you're able to watch it at a long period of time and also look at it and admire it. Yeah. I'm an observer or a casual fan because I can watch it, but there are times, man, I just see people just slugging it out or wrestling. So I don't know. Right. But I do enjoy watching some people slug it out, right? Like watching two people slug it out. Some days I'm like, man, I'm all in. And then there's other days, like I watch a dude get hit in the face and I'm like, ooh, nah, I'm just not into that today.
right. Yeah. No, it ain't like a everyday thing, right? Like you can't really take it in. But again, I can't say that's the one thing that I've done really well in my career is not taking a substantial amount of damage. Like I'm just not about it, man. Like I'm just not about getting punched.
I don't know why that's not everyone's strategy.
I mean, like, right. But look, man, there's some guys that are like, oh, I want to entertain the fans. And majority of the fans are just casual fans.
Yeah.
Right.
So the casual fan just wants you to bleed. Like they just want to see you get punched in the face and just destroy each other.
That's,
And then
that's
you got
not on my top
so-
15.
Nah, it ain't nah, bro. I'm not into that. Look, you'd be surprised how many times I've gotten booed in fights.
Really?
Because I wrestle guys. I wrestle, and it's not that exciting to watch a guy take somebody down.
Yeah, so you're not you just not into it. It's like, hey, come punch me in the face several times, and then I come back in the third round, and my eyes are swollen shut, and like,
nah, man, no, man. I'm trying to get home and be like keep my brain cells intact so I can play with my kids and run around with my kids and argue with my wife about the dishwasher not being loaded.
Yeah. What? So what?
You kind of
go ahead. Sorry,
you kind of like stumbled into MMA. So when you were first starting off in Illinois, when was the first time you watched like a pre-card or something? It was like, oh, this is really real. Like I didn't really fully grasp.
Like for real, no joke. The first fight I ever watched was just on YouTube. I YouTube George St. Pierre, and you guys might recognize his name. I YouTubed one of his old fights. That was the first time I ever saw an MMA fight, and this was after my first amateur fight. Like,
so you over there, you gonna learn how to. So you're gonna watch somebody drive after you done drove and crashed the car.
I drove. Hey, I didn't crash it. I might have bumped. I bumped some medians here and there, but I mean,
you parked on the curb a little bit, but you got there. Yeah.
It was. I ain't parallel park it, but it was a little crooked, but I got it done. So yeah, man. But yeah, when I got into it, like I just did it as a favor to these coaches.
Wow. And
really was like, yo, like you said I can make a bunch of money doing this. All right, let's do it. So I just did it. That was really simple, like simply that was it.
That's a hell of a happenstance right there, man.
Bruh, man, I think in that time, like with all my other options were go be a knucklehead some more.
Yeah.
And my mentally and emotionally and physically, I wouldn't have survived. So I was like, yo, y'all need me here to go fight on short notice. When somebody get hurt, tag me in. Because like anything else I do,
you gonna get tagged.
I'm in trouble. Yeah, I won't get tagged. Yeah, man. So what are some of the myths or some things like what's the pros and cons of being an MMA fighter? That people don't really know about? Pros and cons, man. Pay, like we don't get paid very much at all.
Really?
Man. Like, yeah, like I mean, it's become more of a conversation now because the sport is so big now.
Yeah,
you got organizations like the UFC, and they've done a great job with marketing and branding and building their empire, right?
Mm-hmm.
But financially, like it's difficult to make a real good living in this sport, which is, it's like any other job, right? Like if you do your job really well, you'll get promotions, you'll make more money. You can go to the next job, renegotiate this contract, whatever it may be, right? But think about it. If you don't ever get to that level where you're a world champion or you're valuable enough to be like, oh, I'm gonna renegotiate your contract and give you more money, then you stuck in the same spot all the time, right? And also the way our payment breaks down. So it's a win bonus, it's show money and win bonus. Show money is just showing up. I get on the scale, I made weight, I get that automatic money, right?
Okay.
The win bonus, I got to go out here and win, right? Okay. If I lose, now I only get half my paycheck.
Oh,
so so say X fighter is getting 5,000 and 5,000. That means 5,000 show, 5,000.
Yeah. So hold on. What happens if you don't make weight? Do you still get that pay? Do you get paid?
No. So if you miss weight, this is the crazy thing. Well, it's not even a crazy thing. I agree with it. Your opponent gets a percentage of whatever money that you were supposed to make, right? So
because you wasted their time.
Yeah, right. So if you miss,
that makes sense.
I think it's like 20% or 30% of the other person's purse if they miss weight, right? So now it's like, all right, well, if I miss weight and you beat me, I give you 30% of the little bit of change that I was going to make from the show money, right?
Mhm.
So now you start struggling, right? And then
Yeah.
so the money ain't there, right? Like
Mm.
that's the thing. Like the money ain't there. When they told me that I was gonna make a bunch of money and I could make a bunch of money fighting, I was like, yo, let's rock.
Mhm.
But it ain't like that. Now, like, truth be told, I have, and I'll be honest, I have been very blessed financially because I did the work. I won the fights. I became a world champion. I won the titles. I beat the right people. I did the things I needed to do. So I was able to negotiate better numbers, but your average fighter can't do it or
Wow.
won't be able to, you know? So it's unfortunate.
Now,
do you appreciate like
Yeah.
these celebrity boxing things that have popped up because they've kind of pushed the UFC to start actually paying their guys a little bit more?
Yeah, I think for me, it's tough because I've made my money, you know, like I've done really well and I've also been smart with my money. But these celebrity boxing matches, I think they've done something small, but not substantial enough to make anybody, if I'm a big promoter of a Bellator or UFC, I'm not looking at them and be like, oh, let me follow in your footsteps. Let me follow what you're doing. Like, they don't matter enough. Like, it's just a sideshow entertainment thing. So I don't know.
Do you guys have like benefits or anything like that?
Zero.
So you got to get your own benefit.
You got to get your own healthcare. You got to get your own everything. Everything. Like they've got their insurance, like their liability, whatever, right? Like if it's fight week and you get hurt out in Vegas when you're fighting for the UFC, they'll cover your pay. Like if you get hurt, they'll cover whatever, like medical things that come about. If you get hurt in a fight, they cover a certain amount of medical stuff like that. But outside of that, like if I was signed with the UFC or any other organization right now, I'm paying my own healthcare. I'm paying for my own insurance. I'm paying for those things, and I don't get a pension or anything like that when I retire. And you know, that's just how it is right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long do you want to keep fighting?
Man, I'm 36 now.
Mm-hmm.
I probably got like 4 good fights left in my body.
4 good fights. Wow.
Yeah, good ones, man. I think you go through life and we all kind of know, you know, like guys are just built to be athletes. Like you just have that thing, right?
Some guys.
Some guys, right?
Some guys are built to be athletes.
Some guys, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Some guys. But like, I'll be honest, man, like not trying to be egotistical or nothing like, but I'm one of those people that have just been truly physically blessed to have good health. My mindset, I haven't taken a lot of damage. So mentally I'm still well intact. My fight IQ is very high. Physically, I can still continue to compete. I also married a doctor, so that helps. Like she takes care of me, like got me on all my vitamins, multivitamins and stuff like that, and just keeping my body healthy. So rehabbing my body. I got a hyperbaric bed, I've got a pulse bed, I got sauna, all that stuff. So I've been blessed to be able to keep this thing ticking, right? So I might have 4 more good fights in me. I'm hoping to get back to the UFC and finish it out there. So we'll see what happens, man.
All right, let's talk a little football then. Let's talk a little football.
Sir.
And then you can ask me some questions. I can ask you some questions.
That's the only reason I came on here.
Well, I appreciate it. Now we got a little backstory though. So one of my colleagues, Adam Rank. You gotta tell us, man. Oh, Coley, you gotta listen to this. So Adam Rank is on NFL Network with me, and he also does fantasy. And he's a huge, huge Chicago fan. Actually, I gotta take this picture to send this to Adam Rank too, because
we are being recorded. You can get
you can screenshot this and get this later.
I know. That was like a Progressive commercial, wasn't it? Like I just went, oh man, huh?
Yeah. Where's the dude to kind of help you with that, right?
I know.
Becoming your dad or something like that, right? Turn it into your parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Adam Rank I'll let you tell a story. I'll let you tell
So, so a little while back, like it was during the season, right? Like football is going on. I'm a big Bears fan. I ain't got a lot to do. So I started
Huge Bears fan.
I start talking Bears stuff, man. I'm all over it. I'm talking about NFL. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna catch my rhythm. I kind of want to maybe do this after I retire, something like that, right? So I get on social media. I start following the Sick Podcast, which is At a Ranks podcast, and I'm liking everything. I'm commenting on everything. I'm just involved. I'm like, yo, this is dope. Showing support. And then one day I clicked something and commented on it, and then I got a DM that was like, hey, we would like for you to come on the podcast, just summing it up, like small, like whatever, right? So I'm like, yo, yeah, that'd be dope, man. Like, heck yeah, I would love to come on. So the conversation kept going. And then I was like, from the sounds of it, I was like, oh, they not talking about me. There's another dude that talks football, Bears football. His tag name is Ill Will. And my tag name is Ill Will.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm all geeked up. I'm all gassed. I'm like, yo, I'm about to go with Adam Rank. I'm about to get hyped.
The Rankster.
And as the conversation went on, I was like, wait, y'all not talking about me, right? Y'all got the wrong guy. I didn't hear nothing after that. I didn't get a reply back. I didn't get a message. I didn't get nothing. I was like, yeah, okay, that was it. Like
So did they have
all hype?
Did they have you come on the show? And they figured it?
No.
Oh, so it was like through
DMs.
through DM, and they realized
Just DMs. They were like, oh, I got the
Will.
wrong guy. Yeah, they were like, I got the wrong guy. And I was just defeated. I was crushed.
Well, I'm sorry. What were the?
Thank you.
We're on a podcast right now.
Something up
so
again.
let's get into
We're on a
Chicago
podcast now.
Bears.
What were the Bears takes that you?
What should the Bears do? Should they keep Justin Fields? Tell us what is the problem for the Chicago Bears.
Come on, man. It ain't Justin Fields, bro. They got to keep Justin Fields. It ain't Justin Fields. Look, let me circle back a bit. It's a little Justin Fields, right?
Whoa. Don't.
Just in this context that he's still young. It's his first year as a full-time starter
in the NFL.
System. There's in the NFL, he's learning new footwork, new throwing mechanics. He's got a lot going on, right?
Yeah.
And again, I think everybody has gone over this subject that he ain't got a lot of talent around him. Outside of Mooney, he's got some talented running backs, but O-line is suspect. Defense was the secondary feels good right now, but linebackers, all that stuff, right? So he's got to learn how to take the small throws, the small routes, short stuff, and go from there. Like you ain't got to go. It's 3rd down and 2. I got to get the 60-yard bomb, you know. So I think he's got to work his way out of that. But he's young; he'll figure it out. But they're not trading Fields, man.
They shouldn't. They shouldn't. I had an opportunity to talk to him after the Super Bowl, and then we talked off the camera. And one of the interesting things he said on camera, which made me talk to him after off camera, he was like, look, I said, what was the biggest difference? Why were you guys able to have such a better run, look like a totally different offense in a later part of the season? And he said, Steve, you got to remember, our offensive coordinator, Lou Getzi, he was just figuring out all the different guys. Like, what do we do? What do we don't do well? What can't we do with our offensive line? What can we do? And he was like, our offense coordinator was figuring out each individual guy. Then they trade for Chase Claypool, right? And then as he was figuring us out, we were also figuring out what plays we liked, what routes we liked. So everybody was figuring out each other. Yeah. And so we were all learning each other at the unfortunate benefit of the fan watching us work out the kinks.
It was a hard watch.
It was a hard watch. Hey,
but look, I think that was something that not a lot. It's hard for fans to see that, right?
Yeah.
But and you got to think they're not only learning how to play together, how to run these plays, what plays work. They also learning how to respond with each other.
Yes. On
a personal level.
Yes.
What type of person are you? What type of person am I? Do we click? How do we bond?
Yeah.
We got to figure out how to click. We got to maneuver that stuff. And then Luke Getzi was literally learning how to be a play caller. He was playing And he's trying to figure out how to build a relationship with the head coach, with Eberflus, and all these different things going on, right? But they got so many issues. They need linebackers, defensive line, offensive line.
They need offensive line.
Probably need another
first.
running back because I don't know what they're gonna do with Montgomery.
Yeah,
I love Montgomery. I think he's one of those guys that kind of embodies a city.
Yeah, I like Montgomery as well.
Yeah, but also he hasn't been healthy a lot. Like he gets
dinged up.
Gets dinged up. And I think that young guy behind him, Khalil Herbert, I believe his name is, he's done pretty well. You know, he's flashed. I think he fits that system a lot better, that wide run game, that wide outside run game that they run. So let me ask you a question.
Okay, do ask.
What'd you think of your boy Quentin Johnston when you saw him in person? Were you able to watch him?
Yes, I was able to watch him.
What'd you think?
Super athletic. He's a big guy that can move. If there's one thing that I saw compared to all the other guys, just comparing them, he's a skateboard, right? And what I mean by skateboard is, have you ever rid a skateboard before when you were a kid?
Yeah.
What happens when that rock gets in the wheel of the skateboard? Lose all your fronts. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what I just see. That's Quentin Johnson is a straight line guy. But you and I both know all these little gadget guys, the Josh Downs, the JSN, all these different guys, Tank Dale, right? All these different wide receivers, Shifty, phone booth wide receivers, Zay Flowers, Justin Jefferson. You got to be able to do other things. You can't just be a one-trick pony. Athleticism, just like athleticism and speed, those can't be the only thing you do.
I think the NFL has changed too, right? Like
it is adapting.
The Kansas City Chiefs changed the way you got to play defense, and now
everybody, because
you got to play over the top.
Well, also too is corners that are super athletic. Those used to be wide receivers. Now they're playing corners. So you got a guy who used to be your point guard in high school is all of a sudden now point guard in high school, track guy. And then now he's a starting corner in the National Football League, or he's going to be like Travis Hunter, the kid that was at Jackson State, that's now in Colorado under Coach Prime, right? Yeah. That's a kid that normally you would see, that's a wide receiver. But imagine now, like Tariq Woolen, imagine a Randy Moss type guy who now can play corner. Like, what?
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. Yeah.
You know, like a LeBron.
He go run the route for you.
Yes, or like a LeBron James, who all of a sudden, a small forward playing corner, a Joey Porter Jr., right? A Cam Smith of South Carolina. Like these guys are running 4.4s. Hell, you got a linebacker running a 4.39.
Yo, that was crazy.
That's mind-blowing.
That's what like a lot of people were like, the whole thought process with the whole Bears to trade Fields and draft Bryce Young.
Yeah.
I'm not hating on the guy's size. Like if he can play, he can play. That's it. But when you watch a 238-pound man run a 4.4, you gotta start thinking like, man, You he might be able to move around, but that dude's gonna get him at some point. He's go get God. He go get God. Justin Fields is a big quarterback. And in that NFC North style of football, he got a lot. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how it is.
Well, what's crazy, though, is Justin Fields, you say he's a big quarterback, but he's not if you line him up now with the Anthony Richardson, who's 244 pounds running a 4.4, 4.3. You're going 4.45. You're going, what? Like, bro, I was watching Anthony Richardson, and I'm going, wow, that's the quarterback?
Yeah.
All right. Will Levis. He's out there gun show. He got his tank top on. He's out there. Like, I'm over there like, these are quarterbacks. Like that.
Like linebackers.
Yeah. So it's amazing that you said that. I saw a lot of things at the combine I saw short guys. I saw some 5'9" guys, 215.
Yeah.
Right? When you put 215, 5'9" on a health chart, bro, that's obese, right? The chart will say, man, that is not healthy. That's not natural. You know, but when you talk about athletes and you see them, you go, man, that dude is bench pressing 400 pounds, squat, deadlifted 650 pounds, 550 pounds.
Yeah.
That ain't normal.
Hey, when you go start coaching, man? You go get on somebody's
nah, I'm good.
Somebody's coaching staff.
Nah, I don't. Listen, I don't like the hours of coaching. Right? I'm not. I 80 hours a week, and that's all before the game.
Yo, but look at the hours you run now. You probably like the hardest working dude in all of sports. Like you be everywhere. You everywhere, man.
I appreciate that lie, but I'm not. I'm not the hardest working guy in sports, right?
I feel like you be everywhere, man.
I am, but there's also a lot of days where I ain't doing nothing, and I appreciate that. there's a lot of times me and Coley text each other. Yeah, see, we'll talk about this next week. Right.
Hey, off topic. Hey, man, congratulations on opening up your foundation, man. I saw you.
Oh, thank you.
The mental. I don't want to mess it up. I got notes in my phone. I don't want to open my phone. But
man, I appreciate it.
That was amazing, man. Congrats, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. It's a behavioral health urgent care. So it's mental health to urgent care. So you can go 365 days, or it's a leap year right now. So 366 days out the year, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, helping kids from ages 4 and up to adolescents, to adults, to old people, just kind of giving them a place for mental health, man. Mental health is one of those stigmas, one of those places that people really, we can't put our finger on it, but we know it's an issue. We know it needs to be addressed. We also know it needs to be a part of the healthcare system. Right? We talk about the epidemic of COVID, the epidemic of drugs and substance abuse disorder. Man, mental health is right up there with it, because sometimes it's just an unbalance, right? What people go through is not always talking about substance abuse. Sometimes people just go through some things and don't process it, or process it differently, and it affects them from the inside out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And so this facility that we open is to give them opportunity and it's outpatient. So it gives them the opportunity to try to rebuild their life and be functional in their workplace, in their home life, in their relationships, to be able to start to get their life back together and not be ashamed of what they're processing with their mind and with their heart.
That's amazing, man. That's definitely something that I've been really big into recently, like with just kind of, because I went through a deep depression for a while there, and it's very difficult to interact with my wife, interact with my kids, because I can't figure out what's going on. And I started diving into mental health and diving into, all right, well, what benefits can I get from talking with a therapist and all these other things, and trying to get away from that negative stigma of like, oh, if I talk to a therapist, that means something's wrong. Like I'm crazy, or I'm messed up or something, whatever. So recently I just started dipping into talking to a therapist and doing all these different things, and really kind of diving into mental health. Because I think in mixed martial arts, we don't even talk about mental health. We don't even talk about CTE. We don't even talk about any of that stuff, but that's very real for even MMA fighters. I know football, it's a lot more attention being paid to it in regards to the NFL and
forcefully,
and even college.
Unfortunately,
forcefully, but hey, I would rather forcefully than nothing at all sometimes.
True that.
And in MMA, we have a lot of young men and a lot of women that have gone through a very difficult time with depression and mental health issues, and it's just not a subject that's talked about a lot. So I've been really big on trying to be an advocate for that in our line of work, in our field of sports. So yeah, man, that's impressive, man. That's incredible. I appreciate what you're doing for all those people that need the help, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Man, you've been this has been awesome, man, and just appreciate it. You sitting down with us, man, educating us on who you are, what you stand for, and what you've gone through, man. We appreciate your time, man. It's a dope interview. We love to have you back on. If see what goes on with the Chicago Bears, if you want to come back on and kind of talk about that, give you an opportunity that the Rankster didn't. Man, we love it.
And I was trying to get on so I could be like a full-time partner of his, man. I was about to interview for that role, for that job, but they didn't.
Yeah, well,
They
listen.
were like, nah, this is not the guy that we were talking about.
Well, listen, if you ever get in trouble and you need some volunteer hours, man, we love to have you on Cut to It. We ain't gonna pay you, but we'll we could write it down as a charitable contribution.
Okay. I appreciate it. Look, man, like I've done pretty well in life. I'll be all right. I can volunteer some time, you know.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Man, thanks for coming on to the Cut to It podcast.
Thank you, man.
Hey, man.
Thank you.
Hey, Will Brooks, man. MMA, UFC, and also a guy, man, he knows what a punch looks like, but at the same time, he's experienced how to get choked out. But hey, we appreciate you coming on.
That's how you gonna finish it?
No,
you might as well just say, "Oh, we appreciate getting nuts on his back." Like, come on, man. I'm about to go pick my daughter up from school. I'm done.
Hey, well, appreciate you, man. Love you, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Thanks for taking the time out, bro.
Cut to it. Let's get down to it.